Test. All right. Merry Christmas, everybody. Oh, wait. Happy New Year. Oh, wait. Hold on. Happy birthday, Danny. Oh, wait. No, that's wrong. Happy New Year.
King Day?
No, that's wrong. Happy birthday, Jamie. Oh, God. Wait. Oh, man. We're really delayed on this one, guys. Our last episode was Christmas Eve of 2018. It is now February 11th of 2019. And here we are. Welcome back, everybody.
Been a little bit.
Back at it.
Danny was in China the whole time. That's why we couldn't.
The whole
time. No, there was a lot of things. You guys are both another year older. The Earth is another year older, depending on the January. If you think that's the
start of
the
birth of the Earth.
The birth of the Earth. Man, what a
January 1st.
What a fitting. The birth of the Earth. Actually, ironic given this book. Actually, no. For our part, it is quite correct.
The birth of the Earth in this.
The birth of the Earth.
And
So yeah.
The rebirth.
The death of the Earth also.
And then there's an attempted rebirth.
We'll get there. So we're just going to do some general catch-up since it's been quite a while. So why don't we just go ahead and go around, say our names in case anybody has forgotten by now, and just give some current events in your life, things you've been doing, or as we've done before, media that you've been consuming. Just kind of a general catch-up.
I'll start.
Go for it.
This is Danny. I was in Asia for like 10 days right after Christmas. Not for the last month and a half.
Been in China.
Jamie and I are both drinking the Sledgehammer Cabernet Sauvignon. And media so I'm still listening to My Favorite Murder. I'm 130 episodes in.
Oh man.
Plus minisodes.
That's the real reason we took the time
80
off.
minutes minisodes.
You needed a lot of time to catch up.
My full-time job has been listening to My Favorite Murder. No, I really like it. I think they're really funny. But as a result of that, I've also been watching the Ted Bundy series on Netflix, which I know has kind of been not super well received, but this is my first foray into actually learning about Ted Bundy. And so it's been fine for me. I like listening to true crime over podcast better than anything, though, because when you're watching it on TV, they just show a bunch of stock photos and footage from
that's
just general
moving.
70s footage.
Yeah. The picture slightly moves.
Of like children playing on a random playground. And it's like they can't really show much. And so I really like listening to podcasts about true crime better than watching it. But the Ted Bundy one has been good. I was house sitting for a while and watching it, which was a horrible idea. So I stopped immediately.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds
It was not
bad.
It was not good. Those are my updates.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just been.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Brian. We have finished Game of Thrones since the last podcast episode, so that's exciting. And fitting with the Game of Thrones reference, I'm drinking Wolf Picker Experimental IPA. The dire wolves are coming. Because we can't say winter is coming anymore, I suppose.
It's pretty much there.
Sorry, guys. I know that's like a quote-unquote spoiler, but...
No one's surprised at this point.
That's the whole point. Winter is coming has been uttered since episode 1. So, yeah, we did that. And also, a flip-flop here. Jamie and I have started the Great British Baking Show. And we're on like collection 3, which that's what you said you were watching last time.
I love it. Will and I
are
going really slow through it.
It is so...
Did you feel that collection number 2, everybody was kind of a dud?
Kind of.
It wasn't a dud necessarily. It was just like, I don't know.
Remind me who was in... Is her name Rosie?
Ruby.
Okay.
Ruby, who kept saying...
Can we swear on this podcast?
Yes, we
Are
can.
Swearing? Okay, fucking hate Ruby.
Ruby would just be like, oh, it's terrible. I think that...
Ruby is clinically depressed.
It happened so many episodes.
And hers was always so... Like, the thing that we kept noticing, there are... repeated things that keep happening that we notice, like Mary loves her layers. She brings that up all the time.
Right.
And Paul is always, obviously, it's all about the bake. But like with Ruby, they kept just telling her that her taste was so good every time, and she'd keep being like, "Oh, it's a terrible whatever," and there was like, "Oh, this taste is so good."
"Oh, it's miserable. It's gonna be so bad," before they even taste it, and then they're like,
and
no,
then they're like,
great.
"It's delicious. You're the best," and she was just like, "Oh, I wasn't even expecting."
Yeah, every time.
And it's just,
oh my god.
And I don't know. I didn't love her. I don't think Will and I have finished collection 2. We're near the end. I'm not there. Don't worry about spoiling anything.
Yeah, no, we won't say anything. We like collection 3 a lot. The group is great, but the first collection, it was just like supreme.
They're
The people
so
were amazing.
sweet.
So
but
sweet.
There was the drama in collection 1, right? With the moving the ice cream out.
Yes, that did
yeah.
happen, and
I
like,
thought
that's fine.
Do
Everybody,
we have feelings about it? Do we have
sabotage?
We
Do you think it was on purpose?
I don't think it was on purpose.
I read an article about it. I was really curious.
We talked to Corey,
my
our
brother,
brother-in-law, about it, and he looked up like how they were after the show, and like she went to that guy's wedding, so like I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think it seemed like something they were trying out. Like they needed to include some drama and like make it really aggressive, and I don't know if it went off very well. Like I mean, I don't know. It seemed a little bit
too wholesome for all that.
Well, it seemed a little bit like they have a lot of fridges. Like they have a lot of that was an easily solvable problem.
Right.
Anyway,
but also Ian was kind of aloof. But regardless, Ian's the guy. So if you ever watch the show, you'll know what we're talking about there with all that drama. And then other than that, shameless plug here. I had just recently created the theme song to another show that's going to be on YouTube. It's called Baked and Blessed. So I was getting a bunch of inspiration from the Great British Baking Show, but that's going to be premiering soon. So if you want to check that out, it is Baked and Blessed. You'll find it on YouTube. There's a season 1 trailer out right now, or I guess season 1 teaser. So that's been about it for me.
Hi, I'm Jamie. Like Danny said, I'm drinking Sledgehammer Cab. Not beer this time. Wine.
Beer time with books and wine.
Media that I've been consuming has mostly been quilters of Instagram. #quilters of Instagram.
Beautiful.
I made a separate Instagram account for my quilting things because I've been sewing a lot.
Plug it.
It's called Jamie Quilts. No spaces, no punctuation.
JAIMIE.
Yeah, my name's spelled weird. Go ahead and follow it. I'm at about 80 followers right now, which I'm really proud of.
It was a quick rise.
I followed you immediately upon seeing that picture.
I know you did.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I've been consuming a lot of that. I've been working on some sewing projects, quilting. But like Brian said, we've been watching Great British Baking Show. Anything else? I don't know. In my classroom, students are reading The Great Gatsby and Night. So 2 very different vibes.
By Elie Wiesel. I'm sure there are a lot of nights out
Yeah,
there.
I
I guess
feel
the
like
high school curriculum.
the
that you
high
kinda
school
know,
night.
Yeah,
the high school night.
Elie Wiesel Night.
I think that is always good to note on the podcast, just to see.
I like that.
What the kids are.
What the kids are reading
What the kids
these
are reading
days.
these days.
Yeah, so that's
the same as when
that's
we were
what
high
they're into. And it is F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, in case you were
Oh
confused.
yes, yeah. There are a lot of those out there as well.
Not
so.
mine. My version.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Cool. And so now smooth transition over to Birth of the Earth.
Birth of the Earth.
So we have been doing
That's the name of
some
the podcast.
TLDR titles, and we haven't technically done that for this book yet, but there is something that I want to run by you guys that I found online. So I know that we had one that we had kind of made up for the last one. Well, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy actually has some common abbreviations, but there are multiple. And so I want to run these by you to see which ones you like the best, because it was pretty interesting to see the differences. So the first one here was HG2G. So that was number 1. Number 2 was HHGTTG.
No.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Immediate no. And then H2G2.
I like that one.
Which was my personal favorite. So
Okay.
do we have any consensus here about favorites.
Is it like H squared?
I guess it could be. Yeah, I think
H squared, G squared?
Yeah.
Like 2 H's, 2 G's?
Yeah. I think the first one makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, it makes the most sense.
HG2G.
Yeah. That, like, seems like the title more
Yeah.
than anything else.
I just like
H squared, G squared.
H2G2.
Yeah, H2G2.
Just kind of like feels like a riff on R2D2
Yeah.
sci-fi,
Yeah.
whatever. And then if that was the one that we were going with, then this would be H2G2P2 because this is their second part.
P2.
of-
Brian wants that one.
of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So that's the little poll there for some of the TLDR titles. But we'll go ahead and pass it over to Jamie, who is our leader for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Take it away for part 2.
Here I am. Hi, guys. We're just going to start off real quick. A super short, super speedy summary because Brian told me my summary last time was too long.
No, it's just, there's a lot to talk about. We're talking about the entire universe.
There's a lot going on. That was a great pop. I hope that was on.
Wanted to
the
make sure that I
recording.
hope that it got recorded.
HD sound.
So
here.
the place that we left off in our tale, our romp around the galaxy,
That's a good alternative title too.
Romp
Romping
around.
around the galaxy.
we left off right when our two main characters, who I would call the two main characters, Ford and Arthur, are sucked into the big special spaceship, the Heart of Gold, that Zaphod stole. And
so that was the end of chapter 13, just for an
Yeah.
exact place for anybody here.
End of chapter 13. So they are saved from being suffocated out in space, but then they both realize kind of simultaneously that Zaphod is on board, and they both know Zaphod from different things. So that's where we left off. From there, we went a lot of different places. Most important thing is they find a planet that is kind of like legendary. It's in this weird nebulous cloud that people think doesn't really exist, but it was a planet that built planets. That was their like main economic structure, was building planets and selling them to rich people. And the name of that, I don't know that I'm pronouncing correctly.
Okay, you
Is
go
it-
and then we'll go.
Mugrathia?
Yeah, that's what I was.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Alternatively, Magrathea.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Just to clarify, we are not working off the radio broadcast here, so we don't
So
know.
everything is wrong.
We don't know the correct
We
translation
are
of anything.
wrong. Probably
And we know that the correct translation is out there. That's the problem.
We didn't look it up.
Have not looked it up. Just
We
correct
wanted
us in the comments.
The pure literary experience.
But okay, so we come to Magrathia, Margaderbader.
That's it.
And they're expecting the planet to be barren and everybody's dead because they haven't heard anything from this planet in like 100 billion years or something insane like that. But Zaphod thinks that there's some sort of treasure there. They go through lots of hijinks. We learn that the Earth was an experiment built by mice.
Nice.
And then they try to steal Arthur's brain, and then they escape. That's my shortened summary.
That is it.
That
yeah.
was good.
That
It
is
was
the
a wild
sequence of events.
journey from start to finish.
But I wanted to start off because Danny especially, she walked into our house this evening and said that she had a lot of feelings about the end, and I also have I have feelings about like the last chapter. So now that we finished the book, just like overall reactions and how we're feeling right now about the novel.
You go.
I will say this was a reason that I did like the idea of doing 2 parts to the podcast, because I do think that there can be a lot of shift in momentum from one half to the next, and also some of the enjoyment, just because the trajectory of the story is obviously different, you know, with the classic rising action and whatever the climax is going to be. I honestly thought upon finishing it that I liked the first half a lot better. I thought that the second half seemed to be like kind of spotty to me. There were parts that I was getting a little frustrated with the story in the fact that everything was so like buttery smooth. Every single thing that was going on, I was just like, I need like something to get in the way that isn't just like easily maneuvered around with improbability drives or depressing robots talking to ships. But that being said, I also thought that some of the highest highs happened in the back half as well. So though it was spotty, I think that there were moments that were far above what were in the first half specifically, and we'll probably talk about it later, but the whole plot line with the answer to life and everything, and then needing to find out what the question was once they figured out what the answer was, like stuff like that, I legitimately laughed out loud. But I will say that there were parts that I was just kind of frustrated with overall, but that's kind of where it broke up for me.
When you were saying that that you liked the first half better than the second half, I was literally in the middle of thinking I really liked the second half much better than the first half. I don't know if it was just like because I feel like that's where a lot of the action was happening. Like I feel like, I don't know, I kind of felt like I kind of enjoyed it kind of bouncing all over the place. It was a little hard to follow, but I liked it. And yeah, I don't know, I think that it was just funny that you had the exact opposite reaction. But I do think it is interesting to have two parts to the podcast, to do a reaction after the first half and then a reaction after you read the second half.
Because otherwise it's all glossed over. If you read the whole book, then that's just your reaction. Because like I remember a lot of us were saying like there were generally positive reactions for the first one. So
right. I also think I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like with a book that's so popular and so well known, I feel like there's a lot of pressure when you're like reading it to like it or to react the right way.
Yeah.
Like I was feeling this way when I watched Star Wars for the first time like 2 years ago. I don't know. And I was like very behind everybody.
We're gonna bleep that out. No, I'm just kidding.
So sorry. And I feel like with books that I feel like I'm really overdue reading, I almost finished them and I'm like, I don't know how to feel because I feel like I've been told how to feel about it for so long.
Yeah.
And so correct me if I'm wrong. He write this? He wrote this with like the idea of having more after it, or no?
He had done the radio broadcast first, and I actually just found this out today that he was approached by a publisher after the fact. Like he wasn't even planning on making it into a book. They approached him, and his quote paraphrase was just like, "Well, that's like one way to get into literature."
Yeah.
Like having somebody be like, "Hey, write a book," and he's like, "Okay."
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, it's a little different because it started as a radio broadcast, but I don't know if I love books that so very obviously stop and are like ready for a sequel. I think that trilogies and series,
least favorite thing.
He was planning. I think that I think you're right about that. Once the books did start, that there was a plan to continue.
I kind of like the idea. Maybe this is a hot take. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of having books, even if they're in a trilogy, even if they're in a trilogy of 5.
Oh, trilogy of 5 parts. Yeah.
Even if they're in a series, I like the idea of having a book that can be standalone. Not necessarily like the second or third one, but I do kind of like the idea of the first book in the series being not so obviously like almost a promo for the second book.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the ending was it went like naturally into the second book, but I just kind of was hoping for a little more closure, even in the first of 5 books.
Yeah. I agree with the end there. And what was your thoughts then?
Well, yeah, so very similar. I was super disappointed in the ending.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 chapters.
I really thought so too.
I was just like, okay, so they just escape. And
it was
we're-
a huge
and
deal.
like, we're suddenly done with that plot line. Like, it's just like,
As far as we know, but yeah.
but like no one seems to be that worried. We don't get any sort of closure with Zaphod's like brain thing.
Yeah.
That he messed up his own brain and he doesn't know why. Like, that just like is left like that. And we end with like the damn robot being sad and just getting back on the spaceship, and like it just seems very anticlimactic. I don't know, I was really disappointed with the end, but I feel like I have a mixture of your guys' reactions to the book as a whole, because I think that I really enjoyed like the first quarter of the book.
We're
Like
not having it anymore.
the introduction to Arthur Dent, like while we're still on Earth, I think is really lovely and like structured really well. I think that part was really funny. Once they got into space, it dipped for me, and like the whole middle part of the book kind of dipped for me. And then the parts that you said you were frustrated with that were too clean, I thought were funny. Like one of the parts that I marked was about when they get to Magrathia, and they are bombarded by missiles like coming for the ship, and it talks about the deadly missile attack shortly to be launched by an ancient automatic defense system will result merely in the breakage of 3 coffee cups and a mouse cage, the bruising of somebody's upper arm, and the untimely creation and sudden demise of a bowl of petunias and an innocent sperm well. In order that some sense of mystery should still be preserved, no revelation will yet be made concerning whose upper arm sustains the bruise. This fact may safely be made the subject of suspense, since it is of no significance whatsoever. Like, I thought that part was really funny.
I did too. I marked that down as well. There were parts that were still really good. Yeah.
But it is really clean, and it's like there should be suspense there in a traditional story of like, oh my god, they're gonna like their ship's
Nuclear
gonna be destroyed.
missiles,
yeah, like this is terrifying. But then he's literally at the
goes
end of
on
that
like a
chapter, he's just like, hey guys, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. Somebody will get a bruise. We're not gonna talk about it yet, but like I thought that was funny. But yeah, that's kind of, it dipped a lot for me. I loved the first quarter. The middle, I thought it was just like too all over the place, and I was kind of confused. I don't know, almost the last quarter of it I enjoyed, but then the last 2 chapters I hated. So it was just like up and down for me.
I will just say, so I don't know if you guys have seen this. So I guess 2 points here. So the very last sentence, Zaphod is saying, okay, baby, hold tight, said Zaphod. We'll take in a quick bite at the restaurant at the end of the universe. And that's the name of the next book.
Yeah.
So
I knew that.
So it does lead into it. And the other thing I'll say is, this happens for a lot of series, but maybe not 100% of the time, but there's a collection of all of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy stories that are on Goodreads, and the ratings on those are even higher than what this is alone.
Ones,
like much higher. I feel like it was something that was like quite universally loved. So that's part of it, is like potentially continuing down the path. And that makes me wonder, because I said on the last podcast that I was pretty sure I read that it all started from the same point. So I don't know how that works now. So I guess I'll just have to like actually read the book instead of seeing what I saw online. But I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that they all start from the same point. But I'm not exactly sure, knowing that it does lead in. If that's the name of the next book, obviously something would have to tie in for them to get from here to there.
Well, maybe we meet new characters and they all meet at the restaurant at the end again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
I don't know.
something.
I think I also was reading about how there are like several versions of this book, and none of them, like not all of them, are the same. I don't know if you were like doing research on that, but
I saw something that there are parts of the plot that deviate, especially like
when that was kind of a bold move.
Well, when the police were shooting them at the end, I had read that.
Are we positive that we all have the same version?
Yeah, no, let's all just read together.
No, yeah, I was when I was looking it up, it was like like Douglas Adams himself just like wrote he wrote a few different versions of the, and I didn't get as far as to like figure out how
common
the logical
they are,
or how common the logic behind the different versions, but that's a good point.
Are we reading?
We're not sure. TBD.
That's funny.
I thought that was an interesting point too, because I don't know if I've ever really heard of that, of just like deviating plot points, you know, like when you're writing different versions of the book, like while you're still alive. Like,
yeah, I have heard of that as like a gimmick from authors before, of like, out of the 50,000 copies, there are 10 that have a different ending.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
I've seen that.
And it didn't really feel like that. I think it felt a little bit just like he was writing. He just wrote what he was feeling.
Yeah.
Like he just decided to change a few things. I don't know.
Or accidentally, because I had found out that as far as like alternative endings, which just thinking of this because of the possibility that it's happening here, but A Clockwork Orange, apparently, the last chapter is taken out completely. I believe in the U.S. version the last chapter is taken out, but in the U.K. version it's left in.
It wasn't allowed to, like, they didn't want it to be he didn't want it to be printed in the States.
Well, I think his publisher had the problem. Maybe.
Oh, it was the publisher. Yeah, and he writes a. I don't know if you read the.
I think I heard it in the audiobook. He reads the last chapter, and it's supposed to be more positive. Overall.
It changes
everything.
It's crazy. It changes the entire mood of the book, and also like the attitude of the ending, and the whole outcome is different.
Way more like,
but
pure, I suppose.
The author writes in one of his versions, and the version that I have, he writes a very snarky foreword, putting his chapter back in, and it's kind of pointed at his publisher, saying it's all like in third person, and it's like very proper, and it says like the publisher did not want the author to publish and it's very it's like kind of snarky, and anyway, that
now that he's successful enough to be able to do that,
and he did it after the fact,
right? Well, yeah, that's interesting. We'll let you know in future podcasts if after we check with
more
each
about
other,
the Clockwork Orange,
if our versions are any different or what the differences are. So.
Yeah. Okay, next thing that I wanted to discuss, when I was looking at some things online, I saw something, I don't know if it was just a summary or a review or something, called Arthur Dent, the protagonist of the novel. Or maybe it even used the word hero. I'm not sure. But I wanted to talk about his character a little bit more now that we got to the end of the book, because he's a very like bland person. There's a wonderful quote towards the end, like in like the last, like the third to last chapter or something, where it's talking about the fact that the mice want to steal Arthur's brain.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
And they're like, oh, don't worry, it'll be replaced. And he's like, that won't suffice. Like an electronic won't suffice. That won't be good enough. And Zaphod says, you just have to program it to say what? And I don't understand. And where's the T? Who'd know the difference? And then immediately afterwards, after that, Arthur just goes, what? Like, which I thought was funny.
And Zaphod, see what I mean?
Yeah. Which I thought was funny, but also, like, he is pretty unremarkable as a quote-unquote hero of a story. Also, I think that, like, we could argue about the use of the term hero. I don't know that he saves anything. I don't know that...
Well, the
Brian put his finger in the air.
the missiles, he did save everybody by doing the improbability drive, because he was the one that had pressed the button that caused the sperm whale and the petunias to appear.
Valid.
That's true.
Yes.
So one point in the hero category for Arthur Dent.
In terms of personality, I think he displays no heroic characteristics, though. So I don't know. He's hardly like a Superman.
Like, is he likable? Is he... I don't know.
He feels a little insufferable to me at times. Like, kind of like I was exasperated at him in, like, kind of an endearing way. But also just, like, you know, he says what? And I was just like, be more interesting.
Yeah.
I will just say, on the other side of things, like,
Absolutely not.
All right, shut my mic off. I'll just say on the other side of things that for me, it was all the perspective, and I kind of brought this up in the first part that I still really like Arthur because, again, it's the human perspective of something that he has no way to even, fathom what's going on. And we had to still realize that this is all happening within a very short amount of time. So though the book goes on for, a couple hundred pages, even when we were at the very beginning, all that stuff at the beginning when the world was ending was happening within minutes. And then all of the other stuff when they were in their escape, that was within 30 seconds. They're hyperdriving across the universe to go to this other planet. And to us, it feels like, that would take forever. This is all happening to him so quickly that I liked his perspective of being able to just first of all, I was okay with him being the what guy, because it's just I understand, you deserve that. And then also his ability to slow that down a little bit with Slarty Bart Fast to to still take in information anyway, because he was needing to learn about the whole deal with what the Earth was and what the answer to the life and everything was and all of that. I respected him in his humanity. So though he has those insufferable moments, I think that his heroics with being able to save the group despite being total outsider and not knowing the technology and still being able to stay very loosely semi-centered to keep learning more about his surroundings. So that's just my take on Arthur.
It possibly is a little unreasonable to just be
pause.
To just be be more interesting and just snap out of it.
Get it together, Arthur.
Get it together.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to understand.
The mice created the Earth. It's fine.
This is the answer to everything.
Catch up, Arthur.
React accordingly.
I guess I just
if you frame it that way, then yes,
that's just my personal opinion. But I also understand the other side of things because as far as being interesting, Arthur is not.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I think that I was thrown off guard by it calling him the hero or the protagonist because the
hero is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree. He does save them. That's true. But I think that I saw Ford as more of a hero. He doesn't really do much either.
He saves Arthur.
Yeah, but I definitely
and contributes to the universal knowledge.
Yeah, I view Ford as a much more likable protagonist.
And he's a lead. He's more of a. He feels more of a leader to me. More of a leader to me.
For sure. Even though he's kind of a apathetic leader in some ways.
Yeah.
But something that I feel we talked about this in the first episode that I don't think was answered in this episode or in this half of the book was the purpose of saving Arthur from everything.
Hello, dog. I stole his toy.
Do you have thoughts, Danny?
So I agree with you. I don't know if I didn't notice it being answered in this half of the book, but I was reading about the book today. I was reading some analyses of it today, and I don't remember this being answered, but they very explicitly in this analysis said that Arthur needed to be saved because his brain was important because it possibly held the answer to everything.
But Ford wasn't.
But Ford doesn't know that.
Yeah, because that was the mice.
Right.
The mice, that was their whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ford. I don't really know. I think that there was some camaraderie because he knew.
Is it because they're friends?
Because he knew Arthur enough. Yeah.
But I feel when it talks about them being friends, it talks about them being in a group of friends. They had other people that they knew and liked, and so I just don't understand why Arthur. This moment, Ford very specifically goes to his house and is we need to go have a chat. And I assumed that would be answered at some point, and it wasn't.
You're right. It seems to be answered in a different in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. Ford wouldn't have known
It's just like
that.
coincidence.
It's a coincidence that they were like, oh, we need his
As
brain
is the
because
whole
it was,
book.
the whole, right. But they were like, oh, like of course we need his brain because it probably holds the answer.
But even that is like not specific to Arthur.
Yeah.
Like they
It
just
could have
said
been a human
Yeah,
or
just
a living thing.
a
in general.
human who was there until that last moment.
Right.
Because Trillion wouldn't work because
Or anything. They just said any organic,
Yeah.
like, entity would be enough. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Arthur.
don't think it was, you're right. I don't think it
yeah,
was answered.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Which I
Could be again the
It's a
series,
Jesus metaphor.
plot holes.
He was saved.
or it's in the next one.
plot holes.
Books should stand on their own.
Standalone books.
Oh yeah.
But transition from that into Arthur being the answer, or the question to the answer. I want to talk about the answer.
Let's hear it.
So I was expecting this. Brian like spoiled this for me a little bit. I don't think he really realized it, but I was right. I left off the page before the chapter where they start talking about the mice and the supercomputer and all of the things. And Brian asked me where I was at in my reading, and I told him, and he was like, "Oh, so you know about the mice and like the answer." And I was like, "No, I don't. That's not a thing." But also when you said the answer, I was like, "Oh, well, it's 42." Because I've heard that in popular culture.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've
I have
heard it
too,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was like, I'm assuming that's where that comes from. So that was like a little bit spoiled for me, which is fine.
Sorry, guys.
We're
It's-
we're working through it.
That's my bad.
Fine.
And this is our new segment called
Called
This is-
grievances I have with Brian.
Apology corner.
Um,
I'm gonna leave. Sorry, guys.
but I just want to talk about all of that. I don't know. I have a lot of things. I kind of want you guys to postulate what you think the question is, but also I know that's difficult.
That gives me extreme anxiety.
I
Brian
will-
has 10 questions queued up already.
No, I haven't figured out. Let me pull up my notes. No. I will just say with the actual answer, because this was something. This was a random way that I even got here in the first place. But I saw an instance of Googleplex within the book, and so I was like, "Oh, did Google get inspired by Hitchhiker's Guide?"
Yeah, I saw that too.
But,
I was wondering.
but I looked it up, and it's not true. It was from a mathematician from the 1800s that his nephew ended up naming it because that's
Boring.
boring. But if you type in the answer to life, the universe, and everything in Google, they actually pull up their search engine calculator, like that you use for math, and then it says that the answer is 42.
Oh, that's funny.
As an equation. So that's pretty funny. But
Google's
anyways,
trolling around.
as far as the boom, nice sound effects HD. As far as the rest of that, I don't know. To postulate, I did see an interview with
Dog is biting my feet.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Wilfred, come here.
the thing with the answer itself, all I'll say is like there was a interview with Douglas Adams in which he was saying that it's just nothing. Like he just wanted to.
I assume.
No, I know,
so.
but the thing that he was
He
saying
knows
is
something.
like he wanted it to be something that was like a number, but not a complex one, but not something too simple either. And like he just came up with it one day very randomly. And I just appreciate it. I thought that it was like I did laugh out loud regardless of like knowing that, especially in the instance that it led into what the question is. But I do have a quick quiz question regarding
Oh, no.
regarding
I didn't study.
regarding the question and the answer. So the mice say that they need a question to take back to their dimension.
I know the answer.
And so the the question that was posed to them was, how many roads must a man walk down? And the answer is 42. But what is the actual answer to that question?
Is this a riddle?
It's 42.
I just was thinking because that's a Bob Dylan lyric,
Yeah.
which I thought was funny also. But
Oh,
within the song itself, there's a lyric that he says before, like I guess it is the chorus, but he says like, "The answer, my friends, is blowing in the wind." The answer's blowing in the wind.
It's so many pop culture references.
So that was pretty great. Sorry.
I think it's really interesting that I knew like 42 as the answer to life and everything at when I was like in high school.
Yeah.
Like, it's so interesting to me that this has made the rounds and everybody just know, like, it's part of pop culture. And like,
People
even if
just
people
know.
don't even know if they haven't read the book, like,
I would say the majority of middle schoolers that I saw post that online when I was in middle school did not know what this book was.
no.
And I didn't.
Mm-mm.
And I also, like, probably at some point thought I was clever of, like, 42.
It's 42.
It's 42.
I have the answer.
But I had no idea what it was from.
It is on Google.
It is on Google. It's true. I had other things I don't remember.
I have a
Other
thing.
thoughts.
I have a
Go
random.
for it.
When they first said that the mice were the creators of the things, I thought it was a joke. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was zoning out or casually reading, and I read about, and then like 2 pages later they are introduced to the mice, and I was like, oh, this was real. I was like,
they're on the cover of your book.
they are. This cover. Have we shown the cover?
We
Yeah.
have, but we
Okay.
wanted to bring this up. The mice actually make sense now.
Yeah. What? Oh, the mice on the cover. Yes.
Because
okay,
when we were talking about
Yeah.
the cover last time, we were just like, that cover's so freaking weird. But then there's mice on
Rashy.
it. Jamie and I were listening to the first episode a little bit before you came to like catch up a little bit, and then we were like, oh, there's the cover, and the mice it at least fits in some
right,
way
it
now.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
it
I
does
just
make
was.
more
I think I was
sense.
zoning out when I was reading that part, and they were talking about mice, and I was like, "Oh, LOL," and then I like, and then like, two,
Mice.
I was like, "What a good." I don't know, and then they were like introduced to the mice, and I was like, "Oh, that's a real."
That's real.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I wasn't
that's very
prepared for
real.
all of the bizarre in this book. Even at that point,
Yeah.
I was still a little surprised at things.
No, I get that. It definitely got like very, very bizarre towards the end.
The mice thing was the tipping point for. I mean, maybe I don't know. There were a lot of tipping points. Maybe I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
I get that. Yeah. Any final thoughts on the story? Would you recommend it to a friend?
I will say that I would, and the one thing, despite the previous comments from this episode, I didn't dislike the book. There were just parts that became frustrating to me that were notably slowing down my reading progress, but it didn't take away from the overall enjoyability. It does have moments that I laughed out loud, and I, like we have just been referencing with many different things here, I'm glad to have read it to understand the pop culture references a lot more, because there are so many things that tie back to this book that I hadn't realized before. And for the final thoughts, I'm just going to bring up just a couple more, just because there were things that I just found interesting upon looking into it a little bit more. So that's why I would recommend it. It's just you'll be able to understand how much this book, this radio program, has influenced so much of popular culture. But I don't know if you guys recall the language learning app Babbel. That it's getting more popular. There has been a lot of advertising the last few years because it's been growing and growing. Well, the Babbel fish is in this book where it was like a translating fish in your ear, and so like that's just another random thing. And then to bring Radiohead back into this put a puzzle in place for me that I had been wondering for so long. So there is a song on the Hail to the Thief record called Myxomatosis, and I was just like, how did they like get that idea of myxomatosis to like make into a song. And we already know from like last episode that there's a few other songs that they pulled from this book. There is a reference to myxomatosis on page 165 of my copy that I would have to assume like was part of some of that inspiration that Tom York and company got from this book.
It's not on page 165.
Maybe not on yours.
No, not mine.
Sorry. On mine it is page 165. And myxomatosis is like a random disease, I think for rabbits specifically, but maybe for other mammals as well. But in the song, it's just like, how did he hear of myxomatosis? Like, what caused that to happen? But we know there's just like brief references to the paranoid android, among other things. So it was just such a puzzle piece in place for me of like, how did he get inspiration for that? Well, it might have been from here, which was pretty cool. And just another, again, pop culture tie-in that I thought was so cool and like just a good reason to read the book overall.
Yeah, I mean, I would also recommend it. I think everyone should read it. I was a little underwhelmed, I think, but I think that comes for me with like pressure of reading a book that everybody seemingly has read. I definitely enjoyed all of the action in the second half, but yeah, it cleared up some pop culture references, I think, for me too, and it kind of feels like I'm on the other side, like having an in to like understanding why 42 is the answer to everything.
I mean, we still don't understand why.
We don't know why, but I feel like I've made a little progress. Yeah, I think that it's worth reading. How do you guys feel about the next 4 books? Would you want to read them?
I don't know that I will.
I don't know if I'm that interested in reading them.
Maybe eventually, not right now. It's not like I'm gonna go out to Barnes and Noble tomorrow or my local independent bookstore.
Prospero's, shout out.
Prospero's on 39th Street in Kansas City.
Midtown, let's go.
But maybe eventually I would pick up like at least the second one and just see.
I would want to read the second one,
yeah,
just to see where it goes and if that is actually true about the restarting storyline or whatever else. I'm just curious. I want to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I'd be committed to the whole 5 unless number 2 is really like knocking me on my behind.
Yeah. Similarly, I think I would recommend people read it. Partially for the pop culture references. I also do think it's a really fun read. It's really short and quick, and it is funny. Like it's good satire in a lot of places. I don't know if this is like a bad thing to say about a book. I don't think it is. I feel like I would recommend it to somebody who was going on a long plane ride. And like that is a good book to just read on a 6-hour plane ride or something and just be done with it. Because I don't think it's something you should commit a ton of time to.
I also feel like it lends itself well to reading in one sitting.
Yeah.
Like it's not long and it's not short enough to just like sit down and read in 2 hours like on your couch. But like I think on a plane ride it could be really good. Reading it all at once I think is effective.
Yeah, I feel so. If you're going on an international flight anytime soon,
let us know in the comments.
Or cross country, read this book. Read it for a second time if you're feeling it. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. That's my final thought.
Awesome. Well, that was book number 2. We've officially done it after all this time. We kept talking about all this like it's so quick to read, as it took us a month and a half to even get our second episode out. But we guarantee that it didn't take us that long to read from last episode to now. But next week, now that I've led for one discussion and Jamie's led for one discussion, next episode is going to be Danny.
I'll be leading the discussions on 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Are we doing 2 eps?
I believe, yeah.
We're going to do 2 eps?
Yeah.
So, like, roughly halfway through that, which I don't know how much that is.
Oh, I should have brought my copy for you guys. I have an extra copy.
Oh, yeah. That's okay.
So sorry.
We'll see you again. You're around.
I'm here.
You're around. I'm
Come
excited.
hang out with us on Valentine's Day.
I suggested it. You guys didn't want to.
We can only have episodes on holidays. Christmas Eve counts, guys.
I'll be leading those. I'm excited to read it. It's been on my bookshelf for a long time. My grandma bought me my first copy, and then I think she also bought me the second copy.
Nice.
So I'm taking that as another nudge that I need to read it.
Yeah, it's on our book mug.
Yes,
And
it is.
I
book
am,
mug.
And
I'm
I've
planning on
already
finishing.
read it, but I
Rude.
remember very little of it. So
Yeah, I'm excited.
It'll be
It'll be a
fun.
good time. But yeah, that will be for the next episode. But thanks for joining us for part 2 of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And as they say out there in the wild, wild universe, don't panic.
bye.
Bye.